Somebody said if there's even 2 people logging onto your website and checking out their carts, there's something you're doing right.
How long did it take for you guys to sell all 200 of them?
I don't think it took long.
That long, yeah.
I think by the 2nd month, we already had the 2nd order in. It was literally just by knocking on people's doors and pushing and pushing. And like, I mean, with Native Child, we kept sending emails saying, please give us a chance.
Are they the ones that knocked everything down in terms of like, once a big brand like that was on your platform, did the other brands say, okay, they're on there, maybe we can actually listen to what they're saying?
I think our value offering is more on education in terms of products.
Yes,
so this is what's in the product. This is how you can benefit from the ingredients. So I didn't even know that I thought our competition was like the other big beauty retailers, but it was always hair salons. I didn't realize that. I always say no matter how big you grow, stay humble.
Stay humble, yeah.
Like even if we approach a small brand, we still do it humbly. Yeah. We send a presentation, we ask for a meeting with them. We don't say like, you know,
we're here.
We're here,
we
list.
Expect. Yeah. How did your direct competitors react or deal with this new energy in the space? Because you're a newcomer, and I know a lot of industries are monopolies. They don't want anyone just coming in. Did you feel any friction from other competitors? Like, how was that? How did the industry deal with you guys being the newcomers?
Who are the competitors? No, I'm just kidding.
And you're live on Dead Radio.
Welcome to another very special episode with your boy Ini of Dead Radio. And today we have a very special guest. I'm going to let her intro herself, and then we're going to get into her life story and extract all the jewels that we possibly can that you guys will use in your life. Let's get into it.
Hi everyone, thank you to Dead for having me. My name is Mathebe Molise and I am the founder of Beauty on TApp and its in-house brands, Pastry Skincare and Bear Skincare. And that's my story.
Okay, first of all, thank you for joining us. How are you feeling today?
I'm feeling good. It's pretty hot, but feeling...
The heat, right? Yeah, but it is what it is.
Yeah, feeling good. Beginning of the year. Feels like the end of the year.
Yeah. Okay. Let's start your story from the beginning. Where are you from?
I'm born and bred Johannesburg.
Okay.
I grew up in Soweto in Rockville.
South side.
Yes. I saw someone the other day saying, don't call it the South, like just say Soweto. So I'm from Soweto, born and bred here.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about what type of kid were you?
I think I was a very sweet child.
Okay.
When I think of myself growing up, I was very fun, outgoing, extrovert.
Okay, you've always been an extrovert.
Well, I'm kind of introverted now, but I had a lot of friends growing up. Okay. I was always kind of like entrepreneurial. I liked making stuff. I love school. I love creativity as well.
Okay.
So that's the kind of child I was.
So when you say you were entrepreneurial, what does that mean exactly? Were you selling things? What things were you selling exactly? And where did that bug come from? Like, was one of your parents that, a sibling, an uncle?
There wasn't, not really an entrepreneurial family.
Okay.
More of a 9-to-5 kind of family.
Okay.
But as I said, I was creative. I liked making like dolls for my clothes for my dolls.
Okay.
And then I'd try sell it off. And then I decided that I was over dolls and I was never going to play with Barbies again. So I went off and I sold all my Barbies and my grandmother said, go get them back.
Okay.
So I've always kind of had that bug in me, but I don't necessarily know
where it came from. Okay. In high school, how did you transition from being a kid to your teenage years? How did your perspective on the world change? Were you still extroverted? Were you still an entrepreneur?
Yeah.
Were you still doing that?
Yeah, so I moved out of Soweto when I was 7.
Okay.
And I think I kind of changed as a person then. because when you're in the burbs, you don't really play outside anymore.
That's true.
Yeah, you just watch TV and you feel introverted and
Yeah,
shy. You know?
yeah.
So I was always very diligent. Like
Okay.
I loved school. I was
Okay.
I always used to do my homework on time and everything. And when I transitioned to high school, I was exactly the same as I was in primary school.
Yeah.
Obviously, I just had to be a lot more focused in terms of career choice and everything.
Yeah.
But in terms of personality and being outgoing and being like a people person, I was exactly the same.
Yeah.
Even now, I think I still am. But I said like now I'm a little bit more shy and introverted. I don't know where that came from, but I pretty much stayed the same from primary school through to high school.
And you're live on Dead Radio. And you're live on Dead Radio.
A lot of people who were extroverts when they were kids in their later years, it swaps. For some reason, I don't know why those extremes always happen.
I think it's because you become more aware of people's eyes and judgment.
Yes, the judgment.
And,
I think it's the judgment, really.
Yeah, and because of that, I think you become a lot more observant that people could be a little bit more judgy, so you withdraw a bit. And especially because you've exposed yourself to a lot of people, you kind of get to know what people are thinking, capable of. So you just withdraw and keep that energy to yourself and give it to fewer people.
So, you're in high school, you are really in love with your books. That means you're a bookworm, right? Mm-hmm. That also means that there are a lot of traditional paths that you could have picked, right? Mm-hmm. So at the end of high school, what was your plan or vision in terms of like a career path?
So, I said I changed in high school because I had to focus a lot more.
Yeah,
so growing up, I wanted to be a fashion designer. I was like, I want to be a fashion designer. Okay. Like my mom got me this sewing machine. It was like a toy, but it could really sew. And I used to just take it around with me all the time. I took it to show and tell at school. And then I got to high school and my mom was like, the fashion thing,
it's not gonna work.
She told me you're gonna work at a bank. She even named the bank.
Okay.
And she said you're gonna be a CA.
Pre-planned destination.
Pre-planned.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know what a CA does. Up until I got to varsity, I didn't know what CAs do.
Yeah.
But I was good at maths and accounting. And even my accounting teacher was like, just do a CA. Like, you'll get a job. It'll be so easy for you, your career path, like, you'll just be fine. Yeah. So I decided to do that. So I went to Wits and I did a Bachelor of Accounting Sciences and qualified as a CA.
And then, so you're in high school, in university. The fashion dream is dead.
It's dead. It's also like, what was I thinking? But I think for me, it was like, there was a creative bug. It wasn't specifically fashion. Maybe fashion was more accessible because I could make my dolls' clothes. Yeah. I also loved doing my dolls' hair and plaiting them. So there was just like a hands kind of creativity bug. So the fashion thing died.
It died. So you graduate, right? Where was the first place you went to go work?
So I was really lucky. I got an EY bursary. So EY, Ernst Young, it's EY now. They paid for my varsity fees. So obviously, when a company pays for your fees, you're
going directly there.
Exactly, they lock you in. So articles were 3 years. So I worked at EY for 3 years in my first job, which is pretty fun. I think I've been pretty lucky with the companies I've worked for. So did EY for 3 years in auditing in financial services based.
And at this time, are you enjoying that space? I know you're naturally good with numbers, but like, wasn't there something pulling you and pushing you to be like, I'm not sure about this. I can make a pretty decent living off of it, but is this what I want to do?
At the time, I absolutely loved it.
Okay.
Like, I loved, it was like, it felt like, articles almost felt like you were in grade 8 again because you start first year and then you go up and you're in matric. And in matric, you're like a senior, so I felt like a little boss. I absolutely loved it. I loved the work I was doing, and I always wanted to work for a bank and be a CEO of a bank.
Okay.
So just having that insight into what banks do and the regulation around them and how banks actually work was super exciting. So I was really revved up, ready to go in terms of my banking career. At the time, entrepreneurial bug. I don't think it had hit yet. So before Beauty on Tap, I actually had a baking business. I used to bake.
Was that on the side?
It was on the side.
Yeah.
But I don't think it had started then. It started when I started my banking career after articles.
Okay, so you moved then to banking.
Yes.
Was it a huge change? Was it a culture change? Like, how did you adjust to being in? I mean, it's the same industry, but it's like a different vertical, I guess.
I suppose with articles, it's like your promotion comes due to the period worked. So you don't necessarily have to work extra hard to get a promotion.
Yeah.
You just graduate in years based on the competencies you finished as well.
Yeah.
So to qualify as a CA, they have to take you off on certain things you've done.
Okay.
When you get to banking, the bank I worked at, they tell you everyone here is clever. Like everyone here is smart.
Okay.
Everyone who walks through that door, through to tea ladies, security guards, everyone, we hire the best in the market. And they said if you want to shine, you have to do it because you're working extra hard and you're just killing everyone.
So your intelligence isn't going to separate you. Your work
ethic is going to separate you. So for me, somebody who loves working and loves learning and was curious about it, I really enjoyed the environment I was in. Like even if I had to go back to corporate, that's the only place
you would ever go back to.
But of course, corporates have, the little things that they have where it's like, if you're young, black and female, it's a little harder for you to.
How was that dealing with? Because us as creative people who don't work in corporate, we've all heard the stories about how difficult it is for black people, more specifically black women, to navigate those areas.
So I don't ever discount the privilege I've had.
Yeah.
So I was lucky enough to go to Redhill School,
Okay.
and it's a private school. And a lot of people at the bank I worked, their kids go to that school as well. So as soon as people look at your CV and they see Redhill, and they're like,
She's one of us.
She's one of us. So for me, I don't ever discount that I had that ease.
Yeah.
But for other black kids or other black people at the bank, it was hard. And I could see it. I would see it.
Okay.
And I wouldn't ever discount that, I have the privilege. Like, I had an interview where my boss's child went to Redhill, so it was like, you're hired.
You're hired. On the spot.
On the spot,
Yeah.
But for someone else, it would be so much harder. Like they don't have that thing where they connect. So I saw the things that happen in corporate, and it's very much alive. And that's why in my business I try to have that change where I'm like, I don't want to be a corporate that's like other corporates where black women have to struggle.
So that was one of the things that pushed you out the door, kind of.
Well, I'd already started my business
the
when I left.
business.
That was the big reason. But even then, when I left, it was like I was being pushed into a role I didn't really want anymore as well. And my time was up because I left as I was the EA to the CEO, and there's like a time period of 2 years, then you must move on. So my time was up, and I was being pushed into a role I didn't want. And I was just like, ugh, don't need this headache.
This is the perfect time for me to pivot.
Yeah, I was like, I'm doing you guys a favor by being here. Okay? No, I'm joking. But I really felt like, it's time for me to pivot and move. I've done my time. Yeah.
How did you feel leaving the comfort of a corporate job? Because people who are in corporate, whether you know it or not, you're in a huge safety net.
Yeah.
Right? And I've heard a lot of people say that when you work a 9 to 5, you end up getting trapped because then you get credit and then you want to buy a house and then you can't just leave your job because of that salary at the end of the month. How did that feel for you? Like leaving. Now it's up to you.
It's up to me.
1000%. No one's coming to save you.
Yeah, at the end of the month, that salary clocks in every time. Now I have to do it myself.
Yeah.
It was scary.
I'm sure it was.
It was very scary.
I'm sure it was.
Because you just don't know what's going to happen. And for me, I had a business that grew during COVID a lot.
Okay.
And I didn't know, like, is this sustainable growth? Is it going to turn at any time and, like, flop? But my mom's very strict, and she's like, you can only leave your job if you know that you can cover your expenses at least for the next year, and you know that your business can carry you. And I've always said that I would never leave my corporate job until my side hustle at the time could cover that salary.
Yeah.
So I would make sure that the business had grown enough to a point where the salary I could earn from my business was exactly the same as my corporate job. So I always say to people, like, if you can't side hustle your business until you have that financial safety net to leave. So I did my maths, I did my calculations, and I had savings as well. I was really lucky. So when I pulled the trigger, I kind of landed into it pretty softly. I relied on my savings because I just didn't want to drown the business financially as well. But I eased into it, and it's worked out.
Okay. So when does the part happen where you're like, let me start an app based around beauty? I mean, that's something that you had never done before, like you had no experience. When does that hit you? Like, okay, actually, I see a gap in the market. Did you even see a gap in the market? Or you just like, I have this idea, let me find out how to materialize it?
So a lot of the ideas people get is more from a need that you have.
Yes, personally.
And every single day we come across things like, that would be a great idea. Then you just move on. But this one kind of stuck with me. My friend was getting married and we're looking for makeup artists in Cape Town. And we asked around, like, do you guys know makeup artists in Cape Town? We tried to Google, we tried to look on apps, to search. And I was like, well, it'd be really cool if you just had an app where you could search for beauty services, And I braid a lot at home, so I loved having mobile braiders come to my house, do my hair. And I was like, even if I could put my braider on an app where people can find her and book her. So that's how the whole app started, was just from a need that I had.
You had.
And then I was like, let's look for app developers, which was hard at the time because they were like very, very few. And we found some.
What year is this?
This is 2015.
2015.
So I mean, at the time, like, apps were still fairly new. And we found people based in Cape Town, and they built an app for us, and that's how
Beauty on Tap.
That's how Beauty on Tap was born.
So you have the app in your possession, right? What was the next step?
So on the app, we had services listed. So I want to book a braider, I want to book a makeup artist, and we also had products on the app.
Whose products?
Local brands. So our whole thing with Beauty on Tap has always been we support local niche brands. So we had a lot of hair care products, but people were like, we're finding these products on your directory, but then we have to log onto their websites to shop a shampoo there. It's a long process, And they were just like, why don't you guys just build a platform where we can shop all the stuff on one platform and you guys deliver? And we're like, oh yeah, actually we can do that. So a year into the app, we launched an e-commerce website called Shop Beauty on Tap. And at the time, it was a lot of local niche beauty products. And that's how the e-commerce site was born. It was just from people giving us ideas and saying, maybe you guys should pivot into this, which was great at the time because the app was really hard to monetize.
I was wondering, how were you actually monetizing this app in 2015?
Exactly. To convince people then, pay for this app to download it, not going to happen. Advertising, you need to have a lot of users. It was just so many things were like a push and pull that an e-commerce website was just the easiest way to monetize, and it kind of worked out.
So then it moved on to the website.
It moved on to the website, but the web-based website was available on the app as well. So people could choose click a service or shop. So on the app, the website was still accessible.
How were you guys marketing the brand Beauty on Tap at that time? Was it word of mouth?
It was just social media.
Social media.
Yeah, when it launched, I think because you don't have that marketing budget, social media is very budget heavy. You have to advertise and so on. We use a lot of traditional forms of marketing, like handing out pamphlets, doing pop-ups at shopping centers and so on.
You guys are on the ground.
We were on the ground at the time,
Okay.
just to grow that community, and then also just focused on social media as well.
Was there anyone who was already in the industry mentoring you, giving you advice? Like, who would you call when you stumble on like an issue of like monetizing or whatever? Was there someone you could call to be like, dude, I'm stuck. I don't actually know what to do or how to solve this problem?
So I'd more lean on family and friends to ask for advice.
Okay.
And just because I worked with a lot of smart people at the bank,
Yes.
I had access to like very like brainy people and who'd give me ideas and say, maybe try this. Marketing, I'd ask people like, you know, how do you think I should position this? So I had a lot of people around me who would give advice.
Yeah.
But I always admit this, and it's very like disappointing. So I don't read books. I'm not a book reader.
Okay.
But I read a lot of articles and journals, and I'm very curious about a lot of technical stuff. So I research a lot and I read a lot in terms of like understanding stuff. So I'd also turn to a lot of like articles and Googling, you know, understanding how can I market a beauty website and stuff. So that helped out a lot as well.
So the website now is running, it's moving. When does it start clicking in your head that, okay, actually this thing is working?
There's something there.
Yeah, there's something here.
So I remember, I don't know where I heard this or if it was somebody who was advising me, but...
And you're live on Dead Radio.
Whoa, 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 whoa. I know you would love to have this bag. This bag, this bag, this bag. Well, here's your chance to win it. Here's how to win. Step 1. Join and become a member by clicking the link in the description below. Step 2. Comment under this video. Step 3. Relax. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to put all the members into a raffle, assign a number to each of those members, and then to make sure that we're not scamming you, we're going to use Google Number Generator to pick a winner. I know you want this bag.
And you're live on Dead Radio.
Somebody said if there's even 2 people logging onto your website and checking out their carts, there's something you're doing right. And I remember we'd get like 5 sales a month, Nyana, you know, like, and so on. And it was like, that's 5 people who believe in what we're doing. And over time, I learned and started to see like with websites, people want variety. And I learned that I have to start adding more brands onto the website to make more people come, because obviously people shop different things.
Yes.
So it was literally just me going to brands and saying, this is what I'm trying to do. It's working so far. So please just give us a chance.
And by working so far, you mean 5 people are purchasing?
5 people are buying, and people are starting to follow us on social media as well. So over time, we just started adding brands slowly. I mean, we only started with 5 in 2016. And then by 2018, there were like 20 brands available. And Native Child, which is a local hair care brand that's pretty big, like gave us a chance and said, you know, let's list our stuff with you. And then we had more big local hair care brands saying, okay, we'll give you a chance. So it was literally just by just knocking on people's doors and pushing and pushing. And like, I mean, with Native Child, we kept sending emails saying, please give us a chance.
Are they the ones that knocked everything down in terms of like, once a big brand like that was on your platform, did the other brands say, okay, they're on there, maybe we can actually listen to what they're saying? Are they the ones that open the door for everyone else?
I think our value offering is more on education in terms of products. So this is what's in the product. This is how you can benefit from the ingredients. So no one was really educating people. And I think even today for a lot of brands, they appreciate our marketing a lot, and that's what makes brands come to us. So as soon as you get that first big brand, it makes you trustworthy. It makes you more reliable as well. So kudos to and thanks to Native Child for just giving us that.
Shout out to Native. Child.
Yes.
Shout out to you guys.
Yeah.
So now that you guys had brands on there, all right, what was the next step?
So we had these brands up until 2020. We had about, as I said, 20 brands.
Okay.
And then COVID hit. And a lot of the ladies had to do their hair at home. And to my surprise, ladies don't actually know what hair products to use themselves. They go to hair salons.
Interesting fact.
Very
that
interesting.
I was not aware of.
Yeah,
at
so
all.
I didn't even know that. I thought our competition was like the other big beauty retailers, but it was always hair salons. I didn't realize that.
Okay.
Yeah. So when COVID hit, the ladies all of a sudden needed hair care products. And we already had a value offering where we had all these hair care products on one platform. And we delivered fast. Like our thing is that we deliver to your door as fast as possible.
Okay. That was the competitive advantage.
That was a competitive, yes.
Everyone has.
Yeah. So we
Okay.
deliver same day or next day in whatever region you're in. So when COVID hit and lockdown happened, like we were lucky that we were self-care or personal care. So we could still retail. And because we just had the right product mix and we delivered on time, it just grew the business. And that's how it just started growing and growing. And then all of a sudden, there was a whole lot of skincare brands that started approaching us. And now we've kind of pivoted to more a skincare retailer than a hair care retailer. So that's how the business has completely pivoted now that Beauty on Tap is a niche skincare retailer.
So it went from you knocking on doors to them knocking on your door. How did that feel?
I always say no matter how big you grow, stay humble.
Stay humble, yeah.
Like even if we approach a small brand, we still do it humbly.
Yeah.
We send a presentation, we ask for a meeting with them. We don't say like,
We're here.
we're here,
We
list.
expect, yeah. Which a lot of brands
now.
do out there.
Yeah, no, we still approach you very humbly because you can say no. You can be like, you're not the kind of vibe we want. So always very humble. So even when the big brands, even some that we approached and said no, even though they come back, we still appreciate it humbly and just take it on and do what we have to do.
I love that. When does pastry happen? And what's that light bulb in your head where you're like, okay, we've been selling all these products that belong to other brands. Let's look internally and create something. Yeah.
So it comes a lot from me liking to read articles and being curious. And I'd learned that a lot of marketplaces and stores that do well have their own in-house brands because that's where you get a lot of margin. Because when you're a reseller, you get like 20 to 40%. Whereas with your own brand, you can upsell and get more margin. But it also came from, we're a brand that listens to community a lot. And a lot of people were saying, can I use my face serum on my body? Or can I use this toner on dry spots on my skin? And we were like, yeah, you can, but it's going to finish very fast, it's small because it's just for your face. And then I was like, it would actually be really cool if you had body care with active ingredients like face care. So body care that mimics face care and that is ingredient based, that you buy based on ingredients. And luckily I'd had someone DM me to say, if you're ever looking towards starting your own brand, hair care brand, she actually said, let me know, I'm a formulator. So I messaged her and I said, is it possible to start or make body care products with active ingredients? And she said 100%, it shouldn't be hard. And that's how Pastry started. And it was just looking at data, looking at what active ingredients sell the most and putting together body care using that data set.
Okay. So now you have the conversation with this lady. You guys, I'm assuming, you create samples.
Yeah.
What then starts, what's the first quantity that you order?
So we create samples. So I used to use a body care product and I'd always mix it with petroleum jelly. So I say,
Excuse me.
Can we create something where it's similar products to this body care, but then petroleum jelly based? And we start and we try a whole lot of iterations. We start with an active ingredient, niacinamide, and that's our first body butter.
Okay.
But then also just from listening to people, we find out that some people like fragrance in their body care, some people don't like fragrance. So we know we have to do fragrance free and fragrance for every, and that's one of the things in pastry that really sells it, is that people have that option. Yeah.
Super unaware of that. I'm learning so much right now.
Yeah, so we start with those iterations, and then when it comes to making the product, because it's like ladies who are also side hustling this and making it from their kitchen, the samples, they're like, we don't think we have the scale to produce for you. Because we've already started the social media page and this interest. People can start seeing like, look, it looks like you guys are making body care with actives.
Okay.
So at that point then we have to look for a contract manufacturer who can make a lot for us. And I think at the time we started with 200 of each.
200 orders. Because I'm trying to compare it to like fashion, right? That would be like, now we're starting a fashion brand. Usually you'd start with 10 t-shirts, 15 caps. You guys went 200. Weren't you guys worried that, I mean, yeah, people were giving you feedback that, yo, we want this, but 200?
So remember with us, what we were really like, is that Beauty on Tap already had a really strong community.
Okay.
And we had a store where it would be easy to sell it.
Okay.
So that's why we were lucky, is that there was already an existing business and this was an in-house brand.
Okay.
And skincare has a shelf life of 2 years. So I was like, in 2 years, we can spin this, like we can push it in some way.
Does skincare have a shelf life of 2 years?
Well,
most.
Not natural skincare has like a 6-month shelf life,
okay.
But pastry is more science-based, so it has preservatives in it. So that's a 2-year shelf life for each product.
Okay.
So I knew like, I have 2 years.
We will sell this.
Oh, we'll sell this. Like, even if we have to push and have sales, it'll sell. And luckily, 2 of the 4 butters, the niacinamide, grapefruit and the fragrance-free, just completely sold out. And that's how pastry began. And yeah, that's pastry.
How long did it take for you guys to sell all 200 of them?
I don't think it took long.
That long, yeah.
I think by the 2nd month, we already had the 2nd order in. And
it was booming.
Yeah, pastry. The one thing about pastry that really shocked me is that from day one, it was a brand that people believed in. But I also think it's because it was an answer to what people were wanted.
Yeah.
And I mean, we had to discontinue some of them. It's not like every single product has been. Yeah, it was just that we had the right ingredient, the right consistency, and those 2 products did really well, and then we discontinued the other 2.
Okay. So you guys are now selling pastry out to the public. How did your direct competitors react or deal with this new energy in the space? Because you're a newcomer, and I know a lot of industries are monopolies. They don't want anyone just coming in. Did you feel any friction from other competitors? Like, how was that? How did the industry deal with you guys being the newcomers?
Who were the competitors? No, I'm just kidding. They weren't competitors at the time, because body care with active ingredients is a fairly new concept.
So you guys created something.
It wasn't completely new. I think it was more, there was an unawareness about it.
Okay.
So we were being very upfront with how we packaged it, how we named products. So it's like niacinamide body butter, or vitamin C body cream, or salicylic acid body wash. We were leading with the key ingredient, whereas a lot of brands would just call it a body cream, but they had those ingredients in them. They just weren't showcasing it. So I think the thing with us is that we were mindful that our consumers are actually very educated and know skincare. So I think when we started, it was more an awareness that body care with active ingredients is a thing. And we've seen a lot of brands introduce very similar body care to us, which is it's a compliment. It's like, we're doing something right. But we haven't really, the one thing about the skincare industry is I feel like there's community in it, even from competitors, because the industry is so big
Yes.
We know that pastry can't cater to
everyone.
everyone. Like
Yeah.
there's just no way in the world. So we know that people will want to use another body butter and maybe our shower gel in their routine. So the skincare industry is very friendly in a way. There's nobody bashing
That's
anyone
so
else.
weird in
Yeah.
business, because business doesn't operate like that traditionally.
But I think we benefit from each other because if there's a really big brand that releases a salicylic acid body wash, I know that it's going to raise awareness about that kind of body wash and it'll translate into our sales increasing. Like we've seen because of pastry body wash sales and us being out of stock, people buy another brand that has a very similar consistency and
Yeah.
formulation. So there's kind of community in the skincare world. I've never really seen anyone bash someone else
Anyone
down.
else's brand.
But it's kind of like fashion. Like you see a lot of fashion brands collaborating a lot of times.
I feel like on the surface, the people out there believe that, but behind the scenes, there's actually a lot of competition.
Really?
A lot.
But what are you competing for? Because
Market
people wear different
share.
clothes every day.
That's true, but people also, what could I say? When the top brand is the one that's running the zeitgeist, people are competing for their customers.
Okay.
Yeah, we all wear different t-shirts every day, but if majority of people love that one brand, then they're selling all the t-shirts.
Okay.
That's where the competition is. And then it's also ego-based. I'm a better designer than you.
Okay.
My stitching is better than yours. It comes from that.
Okay.
So I'm so mind blown that you guys don't compete. But I love that.
But maybe I'm naive. Maybe
Yeah.
they're looking at us and saying we need to buy all their products and burn
shelf
them.
Yeah,
Yes,
and
I don't
shelf
know.
them.
Maybe that's how it is. But from my perspective, I'm just like, we're all working together. So
Yeah.
Maybe I'm naive.
So you guys are making sales. COVID, I'm assuming, is really the time where now it's booming, right? When do you guys realize, okay, we actually need a physical store? When does that hit you in your head? What leads to that decision?
That was actually a really, really hard decision to make because
Yeah.
the company is called Beauty on Tap. It's a tech business.
Yeah.
And we thought that we would always be e-commerce based and we just introduce new technology to make shopping online for beauty easy. But a lot of people were asking for a store, and they were saying we want to touch that skincare and we want to feel it. We want an experience, like a real beauty experience. And after doing some work, we realized that there actually isn't like a niche beauty store in South Africa that focuses on beauty. Like beauty is like a secondary product or offering in a lot of retailers. It isn't like the focal point of what they do. So we noticed that actually there's a gap in the market for something like this, and we took a leap of faith and it seemingly worked out. We opened our first store last year. So people have really loved it. It's been well received. They experience the beauty a lot better. They have access to in-store assistants who are really good and offer them really great advice. So it was a really great decision and we don't have regrets with regard. We should have done it earlier actually.
I get that.
Yeah.
Especially after 2020, 2021, that space. What was something that you assumed about running a physical store that after you guys opened the store, you were like, I was completely wrong, or I was completely right? What's something that you assumed that you had to do or had to deal with, about running a store?
The one thing I assumed is I thought that the store would take away e-commerce customers.
Okay.
And I didn't realize that a digital shopper versus an in-store shopper are completely different people. Like if you have an e-commerce store, you need to know that you have a whole other market that you are missing out on, because the person who shops online and the person who wants to walk in the store is not the same person. So that was a really, really big lesson. And I preach that to anyone, that you need to realize that these are two different people and you need to approach your business differently. Like e-commerce is one department or division. in-store retailing is another division, and they actually compete against each other.
So the first 6 months of a store opening, I read a book and they were talking about how a lot of stores end up closing in the first 6 to 12 months. How was that first 6 to 12 months for you guys?
It was a really big learning curve. It was just us learning. So I think because we had an e-commerce store for so long, we had the customers already.
Yes,
they were just waiting to walk into a store. But for us, it was just learning. Like stock management was the hardest thing.
Yeah, stock management is always such a huge thing.
It was really difficult. Like just forecasting, making sure the store's always stocked up, making sure that we have the right levels of stock, that we're not overbuying stock as well. So it took very long for us to learn how to do that. So that was really, really difficult. But once we got that right, it's been pretty smooth. It's just getting people to walk through the doors now that we're focusing on.
So how did you guys start actually advertising the store? Was it just through your social media platforms, word of mouth?
Social media platforms, but we also hired a PR agency.
Okay.
Can I say the name? Shout out Orchard on 25.
For sure.
Hey. And Jay. Hey. We hired a PR agency and they did the whole PR. They were so good. Like the store was in every publication. It was everywhere. So hiring a PR agency was a really good decision, but we also had our own social media rollout.
Okay.
Snez here, our marketing lead. And so she took care of that, and the rollout was just really great.
This is such a great story. Like, I love how you were in one completely very different field and you pivoted and are now dominating in a new space. I feel like the kids really need to be paying attention to this, because it takes a very special type of person to even have the faith in yourself. I want to pivot and talk about you being a founder, right? And a lot of founders find it very difficult to, when their business starts scaling up, to start delegating to different people. How did you deal with that? Because a lot of founders would rather be like, nah, I'll do that. No, don't worry about it, I'll do that, I'll do that. How did you transition to a place where you're like, okay, I can now start delegating to other people?
Yeah, when you start growing, you have to start delegating. You don't have a choice. Like, especially when I realized that there's a layer of the business that's strategic and I need to focus more on strategy and what we're doing, that's when I realized, like, day-to-day stuff, I have to
let it go.
Yeah. I don't think there's anything I do in the business anymore that's like it's more strategic stuff. I focus more on opening more stores, maybe. Maybe.
Yeah.
On like pastry, like we've had issues with pastry stock, like it keeps selling out and we're trying to get the right levels of, forecasting. So I focus more on that stuff, and then I have a really, really great team. Like, our team is so good, and they know what they're doing now. They're all trained, they upskilled, they know what they're doing. So it's easy to just delegate stuff to people now and people know what their roles are. They know what they have to do every morning. So it's pretty easy now. We have a great team.
Okay. From the world that you came from to the world that you're in right now, what are the skills that you took from banking and being a chartered accountant that you used here?
So the one thing, there's probably three key things.
Yeah.
So the one thing at the bank I worked at is, as I said, they told everyone you're clever. The way that you succeed here is you have to be high performance. So because I come from a very high performance background, I have a very high performance team. So the team also believes more in what the business is trying to do, what the goal is. Like, our goal is to be the top beauty retailer in Africa by next year.
Woo.
We'll do it by the end of next year, just to give us some time.
I love that.
And everybody knows that vision. Everybody's working so hard towards it. So everyone has high performance. So I believe in telling people what the dream is and letting them buy into it so that they can action it in their own way. So I learned that. I learned that customers key there. Okay. So at the bank I worked at, it was all about customer. They had like email turnaround deadlines. Like if you don't reply to an email within an hour, you're in trouble. It'll escalate to your boss. So customer centricity. And I also learned that culture in a company is extremely important, and that you can, work hard, but you also need to let people play hard as well.
Okay.
So those are the things that I've really brought from my corporate career into my businesses, culture and everything.
Is that a space you'd ever go back to? On your own terms, obviously. But is that a space you would ever go back to? Yeah.
In a certain capacity, yes.
Okay.
Even though I've left, they always support my business. Like if they have events, they'll buy skincare products. If they have talks, they'll ask me to come talk, and then they'll put skincare products in the hampers. So it's just a company that even after you leave, they still keep you really close.
You didn't burn any of those bridges.
No.
Which is super important.
Don't burn bridges. Like even opening our store, I was in the property team there. They helped me get hold of people. Even today, they help me get hold of people. So number one thing is when you leave with class. Like leave like you're going to go back one day. So that has really, really helped. But I don't really think I'd ever go back to corporate. Like I don't.
Once the bug of being a founder hits you, it's so hard to go back.
And people think that you wouldn't go back because it's funner this side. But entrepreneurship and running your own business is a different challenge. Like I'm more stressed now than I was there.
Yeah, because it's all on
It's all on you. The bills are on you. The salaries are on you. So even though this is harder, I just love it more. It's more fulfilling for me to do it.
I'm always interested in how dreams develop, right? I'm always interested in how someone will have a dream, like you had the fashion dream when you were a child, right? Which eventually led you to working at the bank, which then led you to starting this app. What's a new dream that you've developed since you started Beauty on Tap that you weren't aware of while you were working at the bank?
Sure. That's such a good question.
Because once you walk into the door, you're like, oh, this is what I wanted to do. But hey, now there's like 10 other doors that I was never aware of.
So the one thing so I always thought I was going to own a retailer.
Okay.
And now that's transitioned to us having our own in-house brands.
Yeah.
So I want to build like the next L'Oreal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I'm really interested in doing. I'm interested in investing in startup brands as well.
Okay. You want to be an angel investor.
Yeah. So, but then they must be on Beauty on Tap. Like, listen, nothing's for free.
Please, please.
So, helping people start their own brands, giving my insights into how to make a brand work, helping them with packaging, marketing, giving them money to do what they need to do, and then owning a percentage of it. So that's the next chapter for me that I really, really want to
get into.
I've been asking the team to action it, side eye.
Please, guys,
Yeah.
Please,
Like I've been talking about it, like a beauty incubator, but we'll do that pretty soon. We have other stuff that we're focusing on right now, but that's coming.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love that. I want to switch gears for just a little bit. 2024 is a very important year for South Africa and a lot of countries around the world, right? I believe there are 56 or 57 countries in the world that are all having national elections.
Hectic.
So a lot of change is about to happen in the world. I'm not going to ask you about your political affiliations or who you're going to vote for, but rather just the general state of the country, this year being such an important year. How important do you think voting is for the youth, guys, out there? Because it's a really important year. And I feel like these are conversations that we need to be having.
I actually did a TikTok telling people to go register to vote.
Yeah.
I think if you all have the mentality that my vote doesn't count, it starts adding up. Like I always say to people, those little 1 rands you keep swiping, like
True.
they add up all the time, and then
Yeah.
you're like, oh my God, I'm broke.
Yeah.
So those little 1 rands is you saying I'm not gonna vote. Like, and there's so many little 1 rands that I keep hearing people saying, you know, I'm not voting. And it's always important, like even now, I'm 36 and I've voted a few times.
Yeah.
But even now I'm like, I don't know who I'm gonna vote for. But it's important for me to look at manifestos, to look at what my pull is towards a party. Like, do you believe in the things that I believe in? And to also look at just like, how realistic is it that you're going to achieve the things that you say you want to do? Because sometimes, you know, political parties can sell dreams and you're just like, that's not going to happen. So, you know, just do the work. Like, voting is not an easy thing where you just have to show up and do what you have to do. You actually need to do the work and just vote. Like, the country has so much potential. Like, South Africa is just such a shining star.
It is.
If we can just get it right, like, I think this country has the potential to be a superpower, and it was on its way to being a superpower. And I always tell the youth in the office that that period before 2010, like 2009, I was like, oh, people were so happy in the country. Like, it was just such a fun time. Like, the air in the country was so positive. So I hope we can get back there one day, even just as a business owner. The market you have in South Africa is so small just because of where the economy is. And if we get it right, if we can increase people's buying power, and there's so much potential for us to grow the economy and all just thrive and win. Go register to vote, guys.
Guys, please go out there and vote. 2024 is a very important year for all of us. You have to become politically literate. Go out there, read manifestos, find out. Google, guys. Google, please. But this year, there's no excuses.
There's no excuses
at all.
Like, take your camp master to go vote.
Please,
Charge your phone. Take a power bank. Pack water. TikTok. Show people you're going to vote. Like, just do your thing.
I love that. This has been one of my favorite conversations that I've had. But in closing, right? What advice do you have for a young girl out there, or maybe not even a young girl, a woman who's working in an office right now, in a corporate job, and who's very intelligent, who's very driven, but just doesn't have the push to go and start a brand like you, to go and start an app like you? What are your last words to that person out there who's sitting at home watching this and trying to figure out, okay, how do I pivot? How do I go out there and make my dreams a reality?
I think the one thing that stops people from pursuing their dreams is they become scared of the work. So start firstly, start small, like write your idea down on a piece of paper. Talk to close people about it, like tell people what you want to do. And when you see people's positive response, it inspires you to actually start. So just start small, take baby steps. Don't want to go too big too quickly, because that's what puts people off a lot. And just start, like, just believe in yourself. Like, the one thing about my journey that I always talk about is things just seem to work out. Like, it's very bizarre. Things just work out, things just come together to make it work. So if it's purpose for you, then it's going to come together, but you need to start.
Take the leap of faith, guys. And that's it. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Dead Radio. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll be back with another episode.
And you're live on Dead Radio.